And of course, they do not come any more wanted, in my opinion, than 6'6", 40-year-old Liverpudlian Mr. Kevin Parle, Parle.
What did Kevin do?
So on the 29th of April, I launched my hunt for Kevin Parle. Right, Kevin Parle is not convicted. Let me make that blatantly clear. He is not convicted of these two murders, but he is very much wanted for the shooting dead of 16-year-old Liam Kelly in June 2004 and the shooting dead of 22-year-old mother of three young children, Lucy Hargreaves, in August 2005. Ghastly, ghastly crimes. For the last 20 months, this has completely dominated my life, even, with lockdown periods, but I've been to Liverpool countless times, travelled to Manchester, London, Warrington.
My old stomping grounds.
Yeah, many other places, Spain. And I've just been on the most remarkable journey, which continues, of course, to this day. And there are only two things that will stop me hunting Kevin Parle. Number one, of course, is his capture, and number two is my death. I will hunt him until I gasp my last. Well, in fact, I'm going to find him. So
he's not convicted of this. What do you believe his motive is?
Right. Okay. Now, obviously, I've delved very deeply into the past of Mr. Kevin Parle, and some of what I'm about to say, he ain't going to be very happy about. Tough pal. He came from the south side of the city
of Liverpool.
Right? Yeah. So he doesn't come from Toxteth, Croxteth, Norris Green, Highton. He doesn't come from those tough parts of the city. He lived in Pittville Avenue in the south of the city and came from a very sort of semi-detached kind of background, if I might describe it as that. Went to a private school, and
do you know which one?
Yeah, I do know. Liverpool College he went to. That was his secondary school. And he went to the primary school, which is just round the corner from it. Literally round the corner. A nice looking sort of, fee-paying private school. And I've interviewed people from those schools who knew him and into his adulthood as well, of course. And people say he's a smart guy, undisputably smart, intelligent guy. That's what I always hear. But in his early days of criminality, shall we say the established or the big shots in Liverpool didn't really trust him. And I think this stems from his background. So they would only let him run the kids, I'm told. Yeah, he wasn't right up there with what I would call the first division faces,
So he got involved with a drug gang, is that what you're saying?
Well, he's unconvicted of these crimes. What I am saying unequivocally is that Liam's death was motivated by a £200 debt. Now, bearing in mind Liam's 16, that chimes very closely with what I hear about him in those days only being allowed to kind of look after the kids. Former schoolmates described him as a clown, and Kevin Parle, this is, and he was one of the Liverpool urchins, a football crew, the Liverpool Football Club crew, but he was a designated driver. This is not a boy born and raised into hard-nosed criminality, but he did get involved in other criminality because I've heard an awful lot about Mr. Parle, which you're probably not surprised to hear. And he had lots and lots of money stashed away around about the time that he disappeared. So he clearly had been successful with some of his criminality. But he had certain ambitions in his criminal career. He wanted to make a lot of money and he wanted a book written about him. Because around about this time, Curtis Warren's book, Cocky, came out in around about 2000. And apparently Kevin Parle looked at Cocky and said, I want a book written about me one day. Well, Kevin, your ambition has been achieved, because there is Manhunt, which is my book published towards the end of last year, which tells of my hunt for Parle so far. And I'm very fortunate. You know, a lot of people have enjoyed it and continue to enjoy it. It's now an audio book as well, by the way. Not only that, but not long after I'd started my hunt for Kevin Parle, the BBC got interested in it. And we've had a 12-part podcast called Manhunt, Finding Kevin Parle, which is on BBC Sounds and all the other platforms. And this podcast has won an award and been downloaded over 3 million times and counting.
Wow.
Now, this is all part of my strategy to make Kevin Parle the most well-known fugitive on the planet. Because whilst he's unconvicted, I believe a sense of justice is fundamental to all of us. If something is unjust, then it hurts, doesn't it? You know, look at Liverpool, where Parle was born and raised and these crimes were committed. Look at the Hillsborough tragedy. Look at that sense of injustice that lingered for 30 years and more, you know, and people have been so keen to try and right the wrongs. Liverpool's got a big sense of injustice, and Kevin Parle, unconvicted, yes, but needs to stand in front of a court of law and answer the allegations made against him. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so people who harm women and kids, people who kill women and kids, violent crimes against women and kids, the underworld looks down upon that kind of a offender. So you would think that this person would not be being hid by the underworld.
He is.
He is being hid by the underworld.
Yeah. There's a big urban myth that Kevin Parle is dead, right? It's been a myth that has been propagated very cleverly for years and years and years. And in fact, I have a number of sources, as you can imagine, in the last 20 months. I've been flat out on this. I know that Merseyside police for years believed that myth, that he was dead, right? I know that.
And what method of death was that?
Oh, there's various ones, you know. I've been told I need to dredge the bottom of the Mersey. A common one is that he was chopped up into bits and thrown into the Mediterranean. But all the time, when I say to any of these people, well, who, where, when, and how was he chopped up, right? They change the subject, or they get abusive, because nobody can provide any proof of it whatsoever. No one. Somebody tried to get a bit cute with me and send me a timeline about who went where and what was done and how it happened. And that timeline is completely at odds with proven facts. It's a nonsense. And if I just may, Shaun, please forgive me, if you listen to our podcast and you read my book, and if you knew the evidence which I've gathered in the last few weeks, which sadly I can't put in the public domain just yet, believe you me, Kevin Parle is alive.
If the underworld is hiding him then, and the underworld looks down upon people who murder kids and women, is there a possibility then that he has not done this crime?
Liam Kelly was a scally, okay? That's what many people tell me. But he was 16 years old. He was a kid, a child, denied the opportunity to mature, to grow, to enter manhood, to find a partner, have a family and provide for them. Denied all of that. 3 people have been convicted in connection with Liam's murder. Okay? Anthony Campbell pleaded guilty to murder and got a life with 26 years minimum. Okay? Because Campbell admitted his role in calling Liam on to this straightener where Liam got shot. At the same trial, the court was told, although Parle was not in court to answer the allegation, that Parle pulled the trigger. Okay? A man called Peter Sinclair got 8 years for disposing of evidence, burning clothing and mobile phones on behalf of Kevin Parle. A young lady gave a false alibi statement for Kevin Parle when he was in police custody, which is what led to him being released on bail Parle was arrested and released on bail in the early stages of the inquiry, never to be captured by law enforcement again. Okay? I am not a judge and jury. I have not investigated the crimes. My parameters are narrow. I'm merely trying to find Kevin Parle. But what I've just said then are facts.
Doesn't this produce some problems for you, though, because you're no longer with the police and you could be viewed by the police as a vigilante just going on his own mission? And also, because Parle's not convicted, couldn't he take some kind of action against you?
He's welcome to sue me, but I've never said anything that gives him any grounds to sue me upon. I've just stated facts.
And if he sued you, he would be traceable.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any solicitor is very welcome to try and sue me. That's absolutely fine, because I will then go to law enforcement and say, don't you think there's a bit of a case for bugging their offices and finding out where he is? Yeah, I think you'd be on pretty firm grounds there, despite client confidentiality.
And what about the police viewing you as on your mission?
Right. I have a very interesting relationship with Merseyside Police. I've been upfront and open with them, pretty much from the start, until one senior officer told me, we do nothing with your information, right? At which point I cut them out of the loop. But then my investigation got to a stage whereby I simply had to notify Merseyside Police, but I'm not going to speak to an officer who does nothing with my information. I put that fact into the public domain, and then I had a rather public exchange with an assistant chief constable from Merseyside Police. Anyway, what I can say is that in December last month, I had a meeting with Merseyside Police. I made a presentation to them, which consisted of 120 PowerPoint slides and more. And they tell me that they are doing something. And as soon as they update me and I can update the public, then I will. I hope they show the commitment to finding Kevin Parle that I have done in the last 20 months. If they do, his capture is inevitable.
Wow. Powerful stuff. And, it's a heinous crime, and somebody's got some prison sentence coming.
Can I just speak about Lucy's murder for a moment? I think
of course.
It's right that
Absolutely.
I give some kind of balance.
Yeah.
Lucy has been described to me as being as beautiful on the inside as she was on the outside. In fact, Lucy's partner, Gary Campbell, who is believed to be the intended target of the attack on her house, is now talking to me and has given me the most moving testimony you can imagine about the horrific events that happened that night as he was upstairs in bed with their 2-year-old. That will, of course, feature in Manhunt Finding Kevin Parle when we come back, because the BBC have commissioned more episodes. And as soon as I can put the information that is in my head into the public domain without benefiting Kevin Parle and his cronies, our podcast will be back, and people are clamouring for it to come back. If you haven't listened to it, please do, because you'll be getting up to speed, ready for when there are major developments in the story.
And it's a Manhunt that you did the audiobook for yourself, and we joked earlier about women's voices and cross-dressing. That's what I meant earlier when I said about cross-dressing.
Yeah.
So people, this is the only audiobook that Peter's got, and it's in his own voice. And I know, especially in America, they're going to really love your accent and the way you come across. So, by all means, go and check out this audiobook. We'll put the link down there in the description box as well for that. Are you going to do the rest of your audiobooks in your own voice?
I may do, but they're with the previous publisher, so I guess I'll have to drop them an email and say,
And for the Manhunt, for the female dialogue, can you give us an example of the kind of voice you used for that?
No, I just slightly altered my intonation.
No, Monty Python-esque.
No. And a suitable pause where needed to make sure that it was obviously me using someone else's testimony as opposed to my own. In a perfect world, where funds were endless. We might have hired actors and all of that kind of stuff. But of course, because of lockdown, I recorded the audio version in the back bedroom of my house. The audio's brilliant and cuts muster because, I soundproofed it and did it during the dead of night when there was no external noises, got the professional mics and mixers and all of that. But yeah, people have put some great reviews about both the paperback and the audio, which is very nice.
Yeah, I had to do some female parts yesterday with James in here, didn't I? For our Jimmy Savile documentary. We've got a 4-hour plus documentary coming out about Jimmy Savile in the next few months that we've been working on for almost a year. All right, so the internet is a wild place.
Yep.
And I imagine you must have had some people attacking you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What's that been like?
Yeah.
I mean, we get it all the time. It just confirms that we're doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Clearly, there are some people that have got Kevin Parle's interests at heart. Why would you have a dead man's interests at heart? That's because he's not a dead man and he's alive. And the numbskulls don't realise that when they troll and they abuse and they post pictures of my house online, on one occasion, a picture of my house with an accurate description of the bedroom that I sleep in, it tells me two things. Number one, he's clearly alive. And number two, there is someone that I should describe as perhaps not being on my side, very close to home. Give yourselves away, boys and girls, as much as you like, because that's all you're doing. You're just giving yourselves away.
Wow. All right, we've had a blockbuster of a episode with these hard-hitting stories today, Pete. I really appreciate you coming in. Is there anything you'd like to say to the viewers in conclusion?
Well, thank you. Yes, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching and listening. Please don't think that this book manhunt and this podcast is about profit. It's not. In the last 20 months, I have earned £13,000 in connection with my hunt for Kevin Parle. And I have ploughed every penny of it back into planes, trains, automobiles, and all of that. I have not put one carrot on my family's dining table as a result of my hunt for Kevin Parle. It is all about Liam and Lucy. Please read, listen, spread the word, because raising public awareness of Kevin Parle and the crimes that he's wanted for is how we will shrink the world for him. And we are going to squeeze the globe so tightly that his 6'6" head pops up somewhere and law enforcement can slap the handcuffs on.
Well,
he needs to answer the allegations made against him. And thank you to everybody.
And please check out Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which is what it used to be called. LEAP. What's it called now?
Law Enforcement Action Partnership.
Okay, and these are, a lot of them are ex-cops, ex-prosecutors, judges who have been involved for years in putting people away and have realized the futility of drug laws and how we can only reduce the harm. People are always going to take some kind of substance or other, and that drug laws have created more harm than they were intended to stop. So, this is a massive change happening before our eyes right now in society. There's a tipping point. It's irreversible, like you said. The floodgates are open, and worldwide, we are going to see this reversal of it all. But the time period at which it happens in each country is going to depend upon you, because voters are what all politicians care about, is votes. They get up there and they pretend to be tough on crime and they say we need these tight drug laws, but when they're just locking up young people for low-level possession, in America it was the people who voted for it at state level that overturned it. Parents sick of kids getting thrown in jails where they've been busted for weed, they're going to get turned onto heroin and get neo-Nazi tattoos and criminal records and come out and they can't get jobs. It's absolutely ridiculous, but those kids are then clients for private prisons for the rest of their lives. The American public got so sick of it, they voted at the state level to turn this stuff on its head. And the rest of the world needs to do the same. Those politicians who are up there, you know, saying, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, we've got to keep drug laws tight. And behind the scenes, all their cronies have got these private prison contracts. It's absolutely disgusting. But by putting that information out there, exposing this shakedown on the taxpayers, which is what it is, it's your money that's paying for all this bullshit to house these people, to arrest someone like Escobar, to track someone and find someone like Escobar cost hundreds of millions. So they go for the low-hanging fruit. That's how they fill the prisons. And it's your kids they're coming for. They've built private prisons all over the world. So let's stop it in our tracks. Leap are doing absolutely phenomenal work. So please go down and check out the link for Leap. Is there anything else you'd like to add on to that?
I just echo your words entirely, because the war on drugs cannot and will not ever be won. It's caused so much harm. We must have a radical rethink.
And America has spent $2 trillion of your taxpayer money on a war on drugs. And look at the state of what's going on there with fentanyl and heroin and how the opium increased and the cartels. It's like Al Capone times 10. So they knew prohibition didn't work. Drug laws don't work. Stop it. All right. So huge thank you to all people watching this. Please let us know in the comments what you thought. I know Peter's got a plethora of books with tons of cases he could possibly talk at length on. So, you know, he's been very generous with his time today. Perhaps we can cajole him into coming back and do some more. So let us know in the comments how you feel about that and if you've got any questions for him. Huge thank you to all the new subscribers. It's just surged recently. Subscription logo is in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Almost up to 700k now. So yeah, huge thank you to all the people who've subscribed so far this year. It's been at a record level and it's absolutely blown us away. Huge thank you to all the people who've gone down in the description box and checked out our other playlists, our socials, our donation links. And huge thank you, of course, to Joe and James for being here today, our sound engineer and our cameraman. All right, are we allowed to bump or what?
Shall we?
Thank you very much, Peter. That was brilliant.
Cheers.
Yeah, well
Thank
done.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.